Could we be about to let him in again? A report from Fightful Select has not only shed a little bit more light on the answer to that question, but also shed a bit of light on the backstage relationship that Bray Wyatt had with Vince McMahon. Adam, this is quite the story this morning.
It's a bit troubling, this one, isn't it? So, right, it's a very Bray-heavy news video here, but some fascinating stuff. Fightful reporting, McMahon, by the end, was not a fan of Wyatt. One talent said that he could tell by last year that Vince McMahon was simply done with Bray and didn't like him personally. McMahon would shout derogatory things at Bray Wyatt about his physique, which the talent believes actually stemmed from the fact that Wyatt would often criticize the lack of creative direction that his stories or characters would go to. When word emerged of Bray Wyatt having a bad attitude, that came from those who worked directly with Vince McMahon. When things were naughty word, Wyatt would say they were naughty word, and Vince McMahon saw that as difficult to deal with, and that's from one WWE higher up talking to Fightful, but they did note that they think he would fit better in today's landscape.
Oh, much so, because you haven't got somebody shouting at you for your weight when
Horrible.
you disagree with creative. It's not out of the realms. Obviously, you take reports, all these reports you take with a pinch of salt when you hear stuff like this, because sometimes things can be misconstrued. But it isn't out of the realms of possibility when we know sort of the character of Vince McMahon to be this way. I think Bray Wyatt's weight and his physique had come up. It was a bit of an impetus for the Huskins the Pig Boy character from Firefly Funhouse, so it's kind of in keeping with all of that. And it's interesting because I remember that story about Bray Wyatt's attitude being dropped into the world, and interesting that it was almost a damage limitation by WWE and co. So it seems from this report to excuse the fact that they've let go, like arguably one of their most interesting wrestlers.
Yeah, I'm trying to sort of think about the timelines, and Bray made incredible changes to his physique. He looked amazing. He lost so much weight, but more importantly, with Vince McMahon, you just don't speak to another human being like that. if that is indeed true, and my hunch is that it almost definitely is, that's a really horrible way to treat an employee, an independent contractor, a human being. It's just really unpleasant, isn't it? To come to work and be spoken to like that.
I think there'll be comments about need a thicker skin, maybe thicker skin and or better people, maybe a happy combination of the two. Just a wild thought. Just putting that out into the world.
I agree, Ugly.
Thank you, mate. Slice Wrestling have chucked in a bit of detail on this and said they talked about the Vince McMahon putting Alexa Bliss with the Fiend, and Wyatt had some concerns about the direction of the character, and again another confrontation between these two. Wanted to try and take it in a different direction. By this point, Vince McMahon had said, "Well, no, because these Alexa Bliss dolls, they're going gangbusters." So that's not happening. And then it was soon after that we had the release of Bray Wyatt. Before he'd even made a return to continue that Alexa Bliss story, he was gone.
Yeah, for sure. I really hope he comes back, because I consider him one of the creative geniuses of the modern era. He really does get it. Everything he does, despite all the awful booking that he has had to encounter, he has always remained consistently entertaining, and he's one of the people on whatever show you're watching, you always look forward to his match or segment. It didn't matter what he was doing. You just knew that his performance specifically, even if they screwed him over, made him look like a wally, he would always be interesting to watch.
For the news podcast, which we put out every morning, like 10-minute news bite podcast, I was getting some audio of the Firefly Funhouse, and it was a nice reminder of these segments were really good on the whole.
The best. Man, they set the wrestling world on fire. When they started airing, it was just like, wow, what is this? We've not seen anything like this before. This was...
Or since.
No, absolutely. I really hope he comes back, and I hope he's treated better.
Let's talk
both from a creative and human being standpoint.
We want him to be, fulfilled creatively and as a person, more than anything else. Let's talk about the last time that we saw him in action. Let's go back to WrestleMania 37 and that night where we had Alexa Bliss appear out of the Jack in the Box, or
box-like structure. Tom,
sorry,
please.
that box-like structure.
Shambles.
Because we can't use Jack in the Box, otherwise it'll seem small time, pal. Randy Orton giving him the old RKO when that blood-like fluid flowed from Alexa Bliss on top of that box-like structure. We saw a match-like event take place that Randy Orton picked up a pin-type win from. A person close to that match says things were changed days before it. One person who worked on the match and story said not once at any point along the journey once had an effing clue as to what the F was supposed to happen. The finish changed the day before. Randy Orton was supposed to lose and have months off because bless him, he's been packing for ages. The person who we spoke with effectively confirmed that there was never a long-term plan by the Vince McMahon regime for the resolution of the story, which frustrated those involved as it was very heavily featured. I get the vibe that the Bray Wyatt Fiend stuff just captured the wrestling imagination so much that Vince had to begrudgingly accept it. And like when you're like a kid being told you have to go shoe shopping, you're doing it under duress all the way around and making the experience far worse for everybody.
The thing is, it was actually quite an uncomplicated thing to book. I don't think it was a difficult character to book at all.
It is if you don't like it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that was it, wasn't it? He sold all these masks, he sold all these stupid lanterns and all that stuff, and the Lily dolls were going well, so he didn't want to scrap it, but also didn't want to push it because of his maybe personal feelings, at least according to that report. It's bollocks, isn't it? It's just I'm honestly speechless because I don't think it's a complicated thing at all. Let's talk about Bray coming back, shall we? This is once again from Fightful. And the report states, if Triple H thinks a talent can help a company or make money, most believe he's largely going to throw whatever issues they had with Vince McMahon out the window for the sake of creating a better show. We can confirm that his name has at least been pitched for a return within creative. However, that's hardly guaranteeing a return, as many names have been pitched within creative, either by Triple H or someone else on the team. It's good that he's being spoken about. That's very promising. The fact that he's now tweeting more regularly, that's promising as well, and it seems as if these issues stem directly with his relationship with Vince McMahon, and WWE is the right place for him.
I think it has to be, because a few people, when he went and there were conversations, he could go to AEW. I can't see that character working in AEW. I think AEW does some things incredibly well, but I don't know whether they would do a character like that the justice it deserves.
Nor could they. It would have to be some lame rip-off as well, because WWE will own the intellectual property, The Fiend, obviously. Yeah. So he would just, he'd be Mr. Spooky Clown, and he would come out, and it would be some weird, not necessarily watered down, but some different version. And maybe you could do the cult leader thing while not calling him Bray Wyatt. I think WWE is the sensible place. I think he'll make the most money there. And without Vince McMahon, I think he'll be the most creatively satisfied there. And for a man who clearly loves pro wrestling, like Bray Wyatt, who has so much to give creatively, that's the most important thing.
Lots of Bray Wyatt flavoured news for you today. And of course, it's a subject we'll have plenty more to talk about when we know more at cultaholic.com. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.